Hi, welcome to our Winter 2020 workshop series. Today's session is How Will I Tell My Boss? Tips for balancing work, school, and everything else. It is part of our recorded sessions for the winter workshops, and we're glad that you're joining us today. This is part one of this workshop. We'll be having part two in January, and that will be a time where we can get together to share the stories that we've picked up and thought about from this workshop, and hopefully we can start passing on some tips to one another in that setting. I'm Reg Kim. I am a student success coach with the Center for Academic Achievement, and you may know me from previous Instagram posts about how to adapt and adjust your Canvas calendar, or from the intro video that I had on Instagram.
Hi everyone, my name is Liz Fever and I am also a student success coach here at LaSalle. I'm super excited to be doing this workshop with Reg today, and you may know me from my previous work on a couple of other winter workshops for time management and goal setting, and I've also done a few cameos on the Center for Academic Achievement Instagram. So we're super excited to be hanging out with you guys today. As student success coaches, our role is to really help you guys face the different challenges and triumphs that come up during your first year here with us at LaSalle. So we hope that this workshop gives you a bunch of great tips on how to balance commitments. We're going to dive in some ways to communicate your goals and your commitment to school with folks, not only at home as a part of your family or your community, but also with potential employers and employers that you might have during your time with us at LaSalle.
While normally we'd be meeting face-to-face with students, or actually Zoom to Zoom with students this past semester, we're really glad we get this chance to do this workshop together with you. And we will have that time to interact with you for part two, like I said before.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that live session that we're going to get to do, really get to dive into some of these conversations. So now we are going to talk a little bit about what we're going to be covering today. So today we're going to be covering a couple of different areas. One of those is going to be setting realistic expectations for yourself and figuring out how to create priorities when you're managing multiple commitments. You're going to school, you're working, you're helping your family out. So we want you to be creating some realistic goals and expectations for yourself so that you can take some time not only to focus on your priorities with school, but also have some time for self-care too. So we're going to talk a little bit about that realistic expectation and creating priorities. And then we're going to dive into some ways to talk with your family, your supervisors at work, and other people in your community about your school schedule and your long-term goals. If your goal is to complete your degree, walk across that graduation stage, we want to make sure that you can communicate that to folks who are part of the other commitments in your life. So we're going to dive into some role playing later on in the presentation to go over some ways you can have those conversations with folks.
One of the things to remember as we begin this workshop is to recognize that you are the expert in your own goals and your dreams for yourself and your future. Sometimes that's hard for us to really take ownership of, because especially coming out of high school or even your first couple of years of college, where you're still relying on some of your parents' feedback and their support, or from other caretakers that you may have had in your life, or high school counselors or teachers that have kind of guided you towards your college decisions. But now that you've been through a semester of college, you know that you are the expert in this experience. In particular, if you're a first generation student, you are more of an expert in the college experience than your parents. You've done more college probably in this setting, in a 4-year full-time setting, than your parents, who have tried to either finish school or perhaps didn't even attend any classes at all. So you are the expert in how this schedule really impacts your life, and how this schedule and how college looks for yourself and for your own priorities moving forward. I think it's really hard for students to really take ownership of that. And sometimes people might feel a little guilty because now all of a sudden they are put into the situation where they know more than their caretakers, and they know more than the people that are older than them or more mature than them. But the reality is, only you know what it looks like to try to go to classes for 15 hours a week, try to do the schoolwork and the class preparation and write the papers and study for the exams and keep track of everything else in terms of your work life, or having to be a caretaker for your family, or even just being a member of your family and your household's daily life. You're the only one that really knows how all of this feels. So you know how it looks on a very personal level when your school day is planned out, and how much time you have left to commit to working, and how much time you can have to spend with your family. And you know how much of an impact that even those hours that your family asks you to commit to taking care of them or working at a job on their behalf, you know that impact and how directly that will impact your schedule. You are the most important person in determining this schedule. And so you need to figure out a way to be vocal and to verbalize your needs and your priorities to the people that are around you. Finally, the thing that I want us to stress before we move on to the particular specifics of how to talk to your caretakers and your family members, and how to talk to your employers, is that you yourself have committed to attending a 4-year institution. And it's a residential college. And what that means is that LaSalle expects people to be full-time students. And that is a different sort of experience and a different commitment level than going to a part-time education system or doing night classes on top of a job, right? This is a full-time job to be a student. And that is how LaSalle has set their expectations for you to progress towards your degree. That means that for every hour of class time, you should be expecting 2 hours of course preparation or class preparation, or writing papers, or studying for exams. So a 15 credit semester, while you're only in the classroom for about 15 hours a week, turns out to be a 45-hour-a-week commitment. And so you need to plan around that and make schooling the priority. Because if schooling doesn't stay the priority, then much of what is going to happen is that your performance in the class and performance in your courses may be affected. And so this is the time to commit to yourself and to prioritize and to set yourself on track to stay focused towards your goals of graduation and what might be coming after college. So with that as your first priority, making you yourself the expert in your college path and in your college career, we'll talk next about how to talk to your family members and how to emphasize how to schedule and emphasize your priorities in being a part of and having commitments to your family members.
It can be tough to balance your commitment to school with the needs of your family and things that you have to do at home. Like telling your family that you can't watch your little sibling or little cousins during the week like you used to, or knowing that your chores are going to be pushed towards later in the week because you have class. And, sharing with your family that your LaSalle schedule isn't totally flexible, and letting them know that you might be taking on a larger workload than it might seem, and maybe a larger workload than you had in high school, can really help. Sometimes when we look at our college schedule, we have classes, we have breaks, we have organizations we're involved in. It can seem like there's lots of downtime, but really you're taking on a college course load, which can be a lot. So starting that conversation with your family is super important. Letting them know that you want to be able to help out, but you're also committed to walking across that graduation stage is a great place to start. I also recommend that you show your family that you're committed to school, but also make time for them too. You can utilize a planner or a calendar to set some special family time alongside your class and study time. So maybe you block out time to take care of things around the house, or plan to join your family for dinner on the weekends so that you guys can get some special time together and your family doesn't feel like you've totally left them in the dust. Communicating your priorities and goals with your family is a huge step, and I know that they'll support you along the way. So take some time to chat with your family about the commitment that you've made to LaSalle and to graduation, and find some ways that you can incorporate family time without jeopardizing your priorities.
Not only is it important to set aside time to talk to your family members and stay in communication with them, it is also important to talk about your schedule with the people that are at work. And we know that those two things can often be related because the ways that you choose to prioritize a work schedule may be because of the ways that your family has asked you and your caretakers have asked you to take on some financial responsibility. So they go hand in hand, right? What you do with your family often leads to how much you want to focus on your work. But all of that is also directed towards what you're going to do for your education and for your college career. So to help us think about and talk about ways to talk to our bosses about maintaining and keeping our college and our academic part of our lives as a priority, we've asked Kelsey Kraus from the Career Center to offer some tips and some tricks for balancing work and school. If you have any questions, Kelsey reminds us to reach out through Handshake, and you can talk more one-on-one with a Career Center counselor to help you focus perhaps on the very specific needs of your scheduling and how to talk to your specific boss or your specific manager and how to make it so that you keep your school a priority moving forward.
Hello, my name is Kelsey and I am the Assistant Director of Career Development and Readiness in the Career Center here at LaSalle. I'm here to talk a little bit today about how to create and speak of boundaries with your work supervisor so that you can protect your homework and schoolwork time to ensure that you get the grades you want and hit your academic goals. First, I want to say that communication is key. Learning to communicate with your supervisor is very important. The information that I provide to you forthcoming has communication as a core need to be successful. First, focus on the solution. Your supervisor will definitely appreciate any proactive conversation with you instead of them having to figure it out. This also puts you in the driver's seat and expressing your needs. To get started, make a schedule using Word, a calendar app, or in a paper planner. Carve out what your semester looks like, starting with your courses and dedicated study time for those courses. Then, of course, add any extracurriculars or clubs or organizations you may be a part of. And as a side note, those clubs and organizations are also very important to employers in the future. They love hearing of those leadership experiences as well. Once you block those times on your calendar, create 1 or 2 scenarios that you will communicate about with your supervisor. You'll have to base those scenarios on how many hours you can work or maybe how many hours you need to work. How much money do you need to pay certain bills? When you go to talk to your supervisor about your schedule, set a time to actually sit down and go through it with them. Don't just do it in passing before or after a shift. This needs to be an intentional conversation. Once you and your supervisor have agreed upon a schedule, stick to it. It truly is a commitment to yourself and to your workplace to make sure that your schedule aligns correctly. If you find yourself unable to keep up with that schedule or something changes, another conversation is needed. Don't just call off work or not show up because you have too many other commitments going on. It's always best to try and find that solution with your supervisor. It shows critical thinking skill. It shows that you also are able to understand what your needs are and how to communicate again with your supervisor about what those needs are. Plus, you need to respect your time, your education time, your academics, your student org time, but also respect the time of your employer and your supervisor. If you are unsure on how to approach this conversation with your supervisor, you are more than welcome to make an appointment with a career counselor. We can actually sit down with you one-on-one and go through that and come up with a solution together. The Career Center can also help you find new employment or additional employment, internship, or employment, of course, whenever you go to graduate. And if you live close to campus, or if you're financially able to do so, I recommend trying to find a job on campus. Those usually offer the ultimate flexibility when it comes to your hours, when you can working around your class schedule and your student orgs. And finally, take it one semester at a time. Each semester will come with its own challenges, so dedicate a time prior to each semester where you will talk with your supervisor about your needs, your schedule, and if anything has changed. To schedule an appointment with a career counselor to go over any of these things that I just talked about, you can visit Handshake, which is located in your portal under Tools.
All right, guys, now we're going to share a couple of examples of these conversations that you might be having with your supervisors, family members, or other folks in your life. So the first conversation that we're going to share is going to be between a student and a family member. The second conversation is going to be between a student and their supervisor. So we hope that this gives you some ideas about how to get these conversations started. All right, here we go. Reg.
Hi, how are you?
I've been asking you all week to come over and help me with some stuff around the house. What's going on? Back last year, you used to come over, when you'd get home from school, you would help me out around the house, and I really need you around right now.
I'm sorry, I had my earbuds in. I was trying to write my paper.
I understand that you feel like you have a lot to do, but when I come in here and just see you sitting on your computer, it feels like you're just ignoring me.
Well, I'm not just playing games or watching Netflix. I'm actually trying to do some work so that I can succeed and get my degree.
I know. I never went to college, so sometimes it's kind of hard for me to understand what that work might look like, but I need us to be able to figure out a way that you can still give me some support here.
Well, sometimes I feel like in college, the work we do is done more at home than actually in the classroom. So it looks a little different than how it was last year when I was in high school. At home, I need to do my work because we don't have the time in our class to do that work. And we go to class less often than we did in high school. So I have to do a lot of the work on my own time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there some way that we can figure out how you can fit in schoolwork? I can leave you alone during that time, and then you can also still give me a hand?
That would sound great. I mean, they told us during orientation, and our first year teachers have always, or professors have told us that we should plan on doing 2 hours of work for every hour of time that we spend in class.
Whoa.
So even though I'm only in class 15 hours a week, I actually should be planning out about 45 hours of schoolwork for every week.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a lot of time. I had no idea that you were spending all this time working so hard, Reg.
Well, in high school, it's almost the same thing, right? Except that you're in the classroom all that time because you're still going to school 40 hours a week in high school. But in college, it's just spaced out differently. And so it looks like I just, have my hat turned sideways and I'm just trying to, meet people online. But I'm actually doing work because I'm studying in groups and trying to find other ideas for these papers and stuff. So I would love to help because I think it's important for me to be a part of this family. But I think we need to probably figure out a better timing for some of this sort of stuff because sometimes our schedules don't match up together.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that stuff with me, Reg, because honestly, as your family member, it's important to me to see you succeed, but I do also need some of your support and some help too. So maybe we can sit down this weekend and talk about your schedule and all the work that you have, and maybe we can plan out some time where you feel like you'll have a break, where we can work our way through some chores, or I can get your help with other stuff around the house. Does that sound okay?
That would be great. I think one of the cool things that is helpful is that my schedule is heavy on Mondays and Wednesdays. So I could probably do some, take on more responsibilities on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then maybe even on Saturdays.
Cool.
Because I'd like to spend the time on Sundays and those other days preparing for my classes. So
Awesome.
just to keep that in mind, I think we could try to have a plan looking ahead on the days where I have a little bit less of preparation to do and fewer assignments and things like that.
Great. Reg, I'm so glad that we could have this talk. And I feel like leaving you alone now, knowing that you're working so hard, I'm so proud of you. And now I know the days that you don't have as much schoolwork going on, we can figure out a schedule where you can help me out. And then I can give you the space that you need to work on your goal, because I want to watch you, graduate. I want to see you move forward. So I appreciate you, son.
Oh, I appreciate you too, and I love you, and I thank you for all the support. And I think I just need to do a better job of letting you know that I'm planning ahead, because I think if we are in communication about it, then everything should be fine, as long as we keep telling each other, the times that are urgent or the times that we need to speak to one another more and do things for each other, and to step up for one another, because that's what we've been doing our whole life.
Yes.
Family.
Heck yeah. All right, Reg, now get back to work.
I will. I'm not going to go play PlayStation at all.
All right, and I promise that I'm not going to interrupt. I'm going to let you get your work today, and then tomorrow I'll be knocking on your door. We can figure out some ways to find some balance.
Thanks. And scene.
Knock, knock, knock.
Oh, hi, Liz. I'm just finishing up the scheduling here before our scheduled appointment. Come on in.
Hey, Reg. I'm really happy to see you.
I'm
I'm glad that we could schedule a time to sit down together. And honestly, this is something that I've been a little bit nervous to talk to you about, but I'm glad that we could sit down and talk about it rather than me just like telling you before or after a shift.
Yeah, you know how busy it is right now, and it's really hard to just stay on the top of our schedules as it is. So I'm glad we could make some time. I feel like it's kind of important too, because it sounds like, you're making time to talk about it. So what's been going on?
Yeah, coming up with this for the spring semester, you probably remember I started my first year at LaSalle this year, and I'm really, really excited about going back to school. We might be back on campus next semester, and I'm really looking forward to pursuing my degree and furthering my education. But unfortunately, that means that my hours are changing. The spring semester, I've got a really busy schedule at school. So, I've been working Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays every single week. When I've been taking school virtually, my schedule's been a little bit different, but now I'm only going to be able to work on Wednesdays and Fridays.
So how many hours do you think you're going to be able to do this? Because you were working like 35 hours a week last year or last semester.
Yeah, I know. I was really putting in a lot of work, but this semester, I really think that maybe 15 hours is going to be the max that I can work. And I understand that, might be, tough on the schedule, but those are my days that I'm available and I really want to keep working.
That puts us in a bit of a tough situation, because that's like almost half your hours that are going to be gone. Um, I know I'm going to school right now too, and I'm trying to, do this managing position as well as try to keep up in school. But I feel like, um, you're also in the same spot, so I kind of understand what's happening here. Uh, I was thinking of even making you an assistant manager. I was real excited because you're such a good worker, and obviously you're also a good student, so that makes sense that you would be able to do both. But how? Yeah, I don't know how we should think about trying to move forward here. Do you have any other suggestions for how we could figure this out?
I mean, and it really stinks because I've put in so many years working here. I, love all my coworkers. I really enjoy my job, getting to interact with folks and, be here at the store, be a part of the community. But I know that there are also some on-campus jobs that I could look at. So if you do need to find somebody to, take on my hours and I won't be able to keep working here, I can start looking for a different job. But, school is really my top priority right now, and I want to be able to focus. It's only going to be my second semester, so I really want to be able to stick to the plan and really focus on school this year. I'm really hoping that I can keep working here, and I know you might need some time to think about, what we want to do moving forward, and we can continue this conversation another time, but I'm really glad we could sit down today so I can at least let you know what the future is going to look like.
Well, yeah, I think that you've done a really good thing by talking with me instead of just having a brief text message or something like that. I appreciate that we could talk face to face about it or Zoom to Zoom about it. But you've put me in a very complicated situation too, and I know that it was probably tough for you to even bring it up because you didn't want to put us into the situation, because I know you care about the people that work here just as much as you care about your school. And I know that on my end, even having you for 15 hours a week makes a lot of sense because you're such a good worker and this work environment very well, and I know that I can rely on you in those moments, and it would be hard to replace you even if it is just the 15 hours. And I think it's going to be a tough decision, but I think it's something that, because you've communicated with me already, something that we could stay in communication about. And I appreciate that you're putting your schoolwork first, because that's important for all of us, right? And the whole reason why you're working here now is so that you can finish and reach your goals. And, I think I'm trying to do the same too. So I hope that we can try to accomplish that together. Let me think about this for a little bit, and I want to make sure that you get to do the things that you want to do. And I know it's going to take some thought and some more communication together. So let's talk about it a little bit more.
Cool. Thanks, Reg. We'll definitely make another meeting, and I'm so glad that we could talk today. I really appreciate you.
I really appreciate you too.
See ya. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We are so grateful that we got to spend some time with you over this winter break. And we really hope that you're leaving this workshop with some ideas about how to communicate your commitment to school with your supervisors, family members, and other folks in your community. And don't forget, on January 11th from 2 to 3 in the afternoon Eastern Time, Reg and I are going to be going live so that we can brainstorm ideas to prioritize commitments and talk about some of the conversations that you guys might be having with the people in your life. Maybe you already have some awesome examples of ways that you've communicated with your boss or with your family about how important school is to you. So we can't wait to hang out with you at our Live with Reg and Liz session. It's going to be a really great time for us to brainstorm and be able to work through some of these ideas together. Thank you guys again so much for being a part of this workshop, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.